All right. What's going on, everybody? We are back. PSA, the Mental Health Podcast, y'all favorite mental health podcast on the streets right now. And the last few weeks we've been doing good. You know, it's finally the summertime. It seemed like it was never gonna come, especially for us educators, but we are here. And this summer don't owe us nothing. Because I'm telling you, this is gonna be one for the books. I can tell you that now. But how you gonna have a good summer if you don't know how to be happy? That's something to think about, because I know in this day and age and in this society, it's easy to compare yourself to other people. It's easy to see what they doing, or I want to do what they doing, or you don't know what it took for them to get to where they at, and also you don't know if this is a front or not. But we're gonna get into all of that today. So first, let's get into today's topic and today's title, which is how can I be happy in a time like this? All right. The meme reads, it's okay to want more, but it is mandatory that you are content where you are in life, or you'll never be satisfied. Okay. Inspirations come from two songs. So one by Ashanti, Happy, and then Pharrell's song, Happy. Now, if y'all recall, way back in season 2, I did an episode about happiness and the pursuit of happiness and striving to be happy. This one's gonna be a little different. Okay, you can look at this as kind of like the part 2 to that. Okay, so and then we got a good guest today, so I'm excited about that. Inspiration TV show Happy Days. Some people was always happy. Personally, I think they was fake happy. We're gonna get into a topic about that today too. And then my guest and all of his amazing work. So let me go ahead and introduce my guest. Tell the people your name, where you're from, and what you do.
What's up, man? I'm Rob Mack. I'm a positive psychology expert, an executive coach, a published author, and a TV personality. I'm also the least likely person to be a happiness expert and coach because I was so miserable for so long. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good way to start it off, because I know, especially for millennials, it's easy for us to be stressed. It's easy for us to be depressed. We with social media, and we look at everything and we like, why are we not there? What are we not doing? Which is funny because this episode is the precursor to my mid-season series titled Quarter Life Crisis. And so that's gonna be a good one. But as we talk about that, let's first of all, before we get to anything, let's get more about you. So tell the people that what it is you do. Like, what is it you do? So they said Robert Mack does what?
Yeah, so I work with basically 3 different populations. I work with like executives and professionals. I work with entertainers, athletes, artists, and I work with everyday people. And all 3 of those populations are all trying to be more successful, trying to be happier. And so I help people apply the science of applied positive psychology, which is an Ivy League science. It grew out of University of Pennsylvania. And I apply that science to their lives and to their work so they can be more successful and a lot happier with less time, energy, and effort.
Okay. So now, how long have you been doing this?
About 20 years.
20. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good. So tell the people, what outlets have you and your amazing work have been seen on?
Yeah. So I had a show on E for 2 years, Famously Single. I was a dating relationship coach. I was on a show on OWN called Mind Your Business. I was both an on-camera expert and a consultant producer. I did a morning show called Good Morning La La Land for about 3 years, where I was a host and executive producer. And then I've been in Oprah, Self, Cosmopolitan, GQ, Access Hollywood, Today's Show, Good Morning America, Entertainment Tonight. Most outlets at some point I've probably had a little bit of experience or been a featured guest with. So yeah, I've been around for a little while. So you tend to get around when you've been around for a little while.
Well, that's good. Listen, that's what people aspire to do. They want to have all the jobs. They want to be seen everywhere. And I don't want to say seen, want to be effective everywhere. Because that's the thing. Because everybody want to be seen, but it's like, okay, you sing, but what you doing? And I think that a lot of people my age, that's what they want to do. And even at one point I had to catch myself, feel like, do you want to be seen? Do you want to be effective? So let's get more deep into that. All right. So now, when you hear the word, first thing that comes to your mind, when you hear the word happiness, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Peaceful aliveness. It's peaceful aliveness. So I think a lot of us think of it like it's just an emotion, like when I'm feeling real up or excited, I call that happiness. But I would say that true happiness is a lasting, meaningful, and abiding experience of peaceful aliveness.
Okay. All right. Now, when you hear the word content, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I'd say it's very similar. For me, it's more about the experience than the explanation. So contentment or being content, happiness, joy, bliss, they all mean essentially the same thing for me, which is just a deep felt sense of alive peace or peaceful aliveness. I don't see much different, although I know some people do.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. So now I got the definition. So we got the definition according to Webster. Definition of happy, it says feeling or showing pleasure or contentment. So that's funny. Happiness, the state of being happy. And then content in a state of peaceful happiness. Okay.
Oh.
All right. So how many clients do you have a day?
Oh, probably about 14.
14.
Yeah, it's a lot of clients a day. I'm trying to actually scale that back, man. That's too many,
You working. How do you typically, how do you mentally, emotionally, even physically get prepared for, one of your clients?
It's a great question, man. So to be honest with you, most of the day I'm avoiding people like before and after work because that just takes so much energy out of you, So for me, I get up pretty early. I get up like 3:30 a.m., which is super early, but I have to do my meditation, I read, and then I hit the gym. And then after that, that's when I start seeing clients. If I'm not seeing clients, I'm generally just trying to read or meditate or do something for me. Because like I said, holding space for that many people who are struggling or going through stuff takes a little bit out of you,
Definitely. I can see that. And it's funny you say it takes a lot out of you because we move into our next segment, which is, what does this have to do with mental health? All right. So from happycounts.com, it is an article titled "The Link Between Mental Stability and Happiness." It says your mental stability and happiness are more interconnected than you think. It's not uncommon to hear people who have lots of material possessions, supporters, and established careers say that they are still living unhappy lives. It says, in fact, the United States Happiness Index revealed that the average happiness score in 2020 was a mere 6.95 over 10. Whether you want to face it or not, one's overall happiness and well-being are more dependent on mental stability than any other factor. All right, so now, can you tell if a client is happy or not based on their body language?
Yes. Not always, but yes, you often can, and generally if you can, without even knowing a whole lot, let's say about psychology or about unhappiness or even depression, most of us could pretend to be unhappy just through our body language, and it would give you a sign that they were, they actually were. And you actually, if you do it, if you just pretend to be depressed through your body language, you actually feel more depressed, and vice versa.
Well, see, when you say stuff like that, it makes me think of like when people are already sad and they go listen to sad music. So then it's like, oh, I'm so sad, I want to feel sadder. And it's like, what kind of mind? And I said, because I've done it from experience. So that's why I'm saying I'm coming from that angle. But what kind of mind trick is that? Like, it's like, I'm going to go listen to something sad. I'm going to go watch something that's going to make me even more sadder. And I'm already sad.
I love that so much, bro. Like, that was my experience for honestly, 20 some years of my life. I would go through something really tough or challenging or be feeling in a real low mood. And then I would go listen to music or watch a movie or read something that would only deepen the sadness or depression or frustration. It doesn't seem to make any logical sense. And a lot of it really happens because we've got something built in the brain called a negativity bias, right? Which means the brain is kind of programmed to find problems and to look what's wrong in order to solve it, but also a confirmation bias, which means when you're feeling something, you tend to seek out and only see things that confirm your original belief or that mood. So it's partly the brain's fault, but we have a lot of control about that.
So say, for instance, we're just going to do pretend here. So for somebody watching this, they ain't paid for you yet, but they like, I'm thinking about it. So let me ask a question, get a free, let me get them a free question. So if I'm, say, for instance, I come to you and I say, I have to be happy. Have you heard that comment before? Like, I have to be happy or I have to stay joyful or in a good mood because of my environment, for whatever reason.
I would say that's a very rare comment. Is it only because most folks aren't committed to their own happiness in that sincere, dedicated way? Like, that's a very sincere person. I love that. On one hand, I mean, I love it if you're doing it for yourself. If you're doing it for someone else, that might be problematic. But I hear what you're saying there. Yes.
Okay. And then also, do all of your clients leave happy?
They do if I have anything to do with it, for sure. I mean, that's part of the challenge. There's a joke in the psychology field. Like, how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? It's like just one, but the light bulb has to want to change. So part of the challenge of my work is that I want folks to be happy more than they often want to be happy, right? I've gotten better because I tend to vet for clients now that are sincere and dedicated, committed to being happy, and not just folks that, aren't really up to the task, because it can be a lot of hard work in the beginning. But yeah, I would say that I always do my part. But at the end of the day, the beautiful thing and the challenging thing about happiness is that your happiness is your job. My happiness is mine.
Okay. Okay, good. So it says, according to another article titled "Good Mental Health Isn't About Being Happy All the Time." It says it's a popular myth that mental health and happiness exist on the same side of binary. Depression in particular is portrayed as the opposite of happiness, but happiness is an emotional state and its opposite is sadness. Depression, like other mood disorders and anxiety, psychotic, personality, eating, and substance use disorders, is a health condition. The opposite, aside from never developing anything to begin with, is symptom management. It says, happiness is not something you learn about in the medical school, says James Murdo. It says, director of the Depression and Anxiety Center of Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York City. It's not even in our vernacular. It's nothing we consider. He then goes to say that people often refer to antidepressants as happy pills, a premise that makes no sense to that makes no sense to clinic. I can't get the word out, but it makes no sense to professionals. We're gonna leave it at that. I can't talk today. The ideal outcome of antidepressants isn't happiness, but a return to the patient's baseline level of functioning, or at least a reasonable approximation. All right, so that's a lot to unpack there. So let's start with the beginning that stood out to me. Well, first of all, it says that happiness is not the depression is not the opposite of happiness. Sadness is the opposite of happiness. Depression is a disorder. So it says that happiness is not something you learn about in medical school. I didn't go to medical school, so I don't know, but I would assume that you would.
You would assume that, right? I mean, it's something you feel like you should. I definitely feel like you should. In fact, I feel like it's something we should learn in grade school, as young as humanly possible, because happiness contributes not only to meaningful life, but it also helps to create successful life outcomes, right? Like, happy people live longer, they make more money, they experience less job burnout, they get married earlier, stay married longer, are happy in the relationships whether they're married or not. So happiness is good for success, but we're not taught any of this in school unless we sign up for a program kind of like the one I did.
And what was the program you signed up for?
Yeah, so there's a Master's of Applied Positive Psychology program at University of Pennsylvania. So it's an Ivy League program, and it's only about 20 years old, but it grew out of Martin Seligman's work. He was a scientist and researcher and psychologist, and he basically found that, hey, if you remove the depression from people, you often don't get a happy person. You just get someone who's flatlining, who's just getting through life. They're not depressed, but they're not also happy. So he felt that you had to do more than that in order to get people to be happy.
Okay. And what did he suggest that people did to be happy?
Yeah, so there's a lot to it, but one way of summing it up is there's a sort of an acronym called PERMA. So PERMA is PERMA. So the first P, that P stands for pleasure or positive emotion. There's that piece. Most of us stop there. We think happiness is only positive emotion. It's not. And so the one mistake, or I would say oversight in what some researchers define happiness is that they stop. They say it's just positive emotion. But Martin Seligman would say it's more than that. I would say it's a lot more than that. But the first P is positive emotion. The E, second letter, is engagement. That means knowing your values and your strengths and exercising them every day. The R is relationships. The M is meaning. And the A is achievement or action. So from a positive psychology perspective, they say you need all of those things by far and large, the greatest contributing factor to your happiness in terms of positive psychologist perspective is relationships. Doesn't mean romantic ones. It just means, connections and social time and social support from others.
See, okay, so let's talk about that. So with relationships, I'm glad you said that because we live in a society, especially my people, the millennials.
Yeah.
And people brag about, I don't need anybody. All I need is me. Some people say all I need is God, and I believe in God too. So, but he created people. We need relationships. So have you ever dealt with, and this leads to my next question after this, but have you ever dealt with a client who was like, I don't need anybody?
Yes, for sure. And you bring up a great point, Izzy. I think the challenge with lots of these conversations and lots of things that people say is that because we all know the same words, we assume we have the same intention or meaning behind them. But I agree with you that having people in your life is extraordinarily helpful and supportive in terms of your mental health and your happiness. And I also understand the other side of the coin is that some people say need, but by need, they mean something different. They mean that, they can get through their lives without the kind of close connections and contacts that other people have. And that's probably very true as well. So I would say that, do you need people in your life in order to survive? Well, I mean, how are you going to get food on the table and this and that? I mean, that all comes through people and organizations and companies. And so there's people involved, whether you realize it or not, in the world that are help create this building or, put this technology together. So there's that kind of need. But the kind of need we're talking about is sort of a psychological and emotional kind. And so when people talk like that, I often know that what's really going on probably is a lot of resentment and distrust, maybe a lot of insecurity, maybe a fear of being vulnerable. There's a lot more going on there that's usually based on some kind of tragic or adverse experience they've had early in their life.
Definitely. And that's all it is, and it sounds so easy to detect, but it really is. Like, people then went through a lot with people and now they just like, I don't need nobody, because it's like, but you say that as a as a coping mechanism and saying it like I don't need them because they're gonna hurt me in the long run, so let me just go ahead and end that now.
Absolutely.
Now moving on to the next part of it, where it says, where we still unpacking the quote I read, and it talks about antidepressants as happy pills. I've never heard that.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it before, and you're right to, it's questionable. I mean, the science on antidepressants is still very nuanced, and it's not really conclusive, and there are lots of questions about it. I mean, even when it seems to work, often folks and scientists don't know how it works. So the very scientists that either created it and or prescribe it, in terms of doctors or the folks that do studies on it, often don't know exactly the way it even works. They have lots of theories about it, but that in and of itself makes you question, how much of it is a placebo effect, how much of it is real, sort of medicinal effect. And so, yeah, there's some questions there.
But see, and that's the thing, because I just feel like with the happiness pills, I'm one of those people where I feel like, and I'm calling myself to the carpet yet again. So I work out, I go to the gym. I've been off and on with energy drinks, right? I hate it. I know they're bad for you. We ain't got to preach to the choir. I already know. So don't be like, because I've heard people say, you're going to die. Shut up. So this is the thing. I'm at a stage now where I'm kind of weaning myself off of them. But I knew that what they were doing for me, and it was helping me really get in. Because like I said, over the years, I've been on them for some time and off and on them again. And so I've been weaning myself off of them. But I kind of look at this and they kind of correlate, because I feel like the antidepressants, because I'm not going to call them happiness pills. So the happy pills, whatever. So I look at the same thing. They may help you at first, but at some point you have to have the mindset to wean yourself off of them, because you can't live your life based on those. And I know there may be, what's the word I'm looking for? It may be controversial, me saying that, because some people may say, and I'm not against people, like I said, if you do decide to take medication, but just know in the long run, like, hey, I'm going to have to get off this. Same with blood pressure medicine. What's the other one? Some other ones. You have to kind of look at it like, at some point, I need to get off this, because it wasn't created for you to get off. It's created for you to stay.
Yes. So, and on, look, I'm more than happy to team up with you and partner with you on that, man, because, the truth is that from my perspective, and I'm open to being wrong, and there are always exceptions, and I don't want anyone to
Yeah,
feel,
always.
and anyone to feel any judgment from me or have any self-judgment about any of it, because you got to do what's right for you and only you know what's right for you. That being said, the best possible approach, if you need antidepressants, is to also get therapy and or do the other work that's necessary or that's helpful in supporting you, so that ideally, if possible, you don't have to be on it your entire life or for a very long time at all, right? But what happens usually is that, some of us, we get on antidepressants, or folks get on antidepressants, and then they don't do the additional work, they don't see the therapist, or they don't see the coach or whatever, and so they're not learning coping skills, they're not learning self-regulation or emotional regulation, they're not learning cognitive agility, they're not learning self-soothing skills, no mindfulness-based anything, so they just continue to need more and more and higher doses of whatever those antidepressants are, with eventually no hope of kind of getting off them. So I would say it's a bridge and or a crutch to support you in the other work that you're wanting to do, so that you don't need to be dependent on that, particular drug or any like it.
And that's the thing. I agree. Like I said, if you kind of having the mindset of like, I'm gonna get off this versus, I need this now. And again, not shaming anybody that has done it, because I've known people who've done it and gotten off, and I've known people who are still on it. And some of them are saying, I'm gonna get off eventually. Some people, I don't know personally, who may be on them. Yeah. Whatever it is. And this is not just antidepressants. Like I said high blood pressure medicine, any other thing. I know before my dad got off high blood pressure medicine, he lost a lot of weight doing low carb diet. Shout out to the low carb diet. That's what I do. But before he had did that, he was taking them pills, and then eventually he switched his diet up completely and got off of it. So it's possible to get off any medication. And I want anybody hearing this, listen to this, to know that it's possible to get off of any medication, and don't think that you're bound or stuck to medication for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. I mean, the body is the most intelligent, the greatest pharmacological instrument ever created. I mean, the number of, chemicals and that are in the body, and the entire body is set up in such a way to support you being healthy, right? So you're absolutely right about that. And science has only really scratched the surface in terms of what the body can do to heal itself of things. And we just want to support that effort and reduce the risk of side effects as we do that, right? So the problem, the challenge with lots of drugs, of course they have side effects. And so you might need the drug, you take the drug, but you want to reduce the possible side effects as much as humanly possible. Ideally, You get all the way off them, but if you can't, you do other things to sort of make up the difference.
Now, in the intro and the inspiration, I brought up a comment, and I talked about fake happiness. I can't stand fake happiness. I can't stand to see people faking like they're happy and they're not. I can't stand to see people who, if you're going through something, they're like, oh, I'm good. You're not good. It's all in your body language and your facial expressions. I can tell you've been going through a lot. So what is your initial comment or question to see, like, if you say, for instance, you got a client, say I'm your client, you can tell I'm not happy. You still ask me how you feel, or even a friend, and you like, and they're like, I'm good. See, I'm good. And you like, you're not good. What is kind of like your initial question or questions that you kind of may ask to see, like, let's see, let me ask this, and I'm gonna see what you say.
Yeah, it's funny you say this, Izzy, because when I started coaching, I was an empath as a kid. I'm sure you were probably empath as a kid. You pick up on everybody else's feelings and emotions. You can feel it almost before they feel it, or at least when they feel it. So I'd often pick up the phone and I'd say, hey, how are you? And they'd say, oh, I'm good. And right away, I'd feel what they were feeling. And then I'd say, no, you're not. And I realized that didn't always go so well. They weren't ready to hear that or receive that. And I wasn't even able to control it often. So I've gotten better with that. I don't do that anymore. One thing I do instead is I'll just say, okay, describe to me what you're feeling. I'll say, what are you feeling? Describe it to me a little bit. And if a person is disassociating from the body, from the feelings, and they're just telling you a story that isn't true, they're going to have a real hard time answering that question. So you're going to have a little heads up there. If you're truly happy, you're able to say, oh, I just feel a lightness, or I feel this or that. Or if you're really depressed, you'll be able to answer that. So I say, what are you feeling? Describe it to me. And then I ask them, where are you feeling it in your body? Where do you feel that in your body? And so generally what happens is if you get people in touch with their body and you ask them to describe what they're feeling in their body and where they're feeling the most powerful emotions, you'll get them to slowly but surely open up and be a little more honest. I'll say, what are you feeling there in your legs? What about your stomach? So that being said, I don't push people or force people to be or say or feel anything other than they are willing to share with me. Because I have also realized that my highest teaching is me being the change they want to be, or me being or feeling what I know they ultimately want to be and feel. And they can lie to me, but they can never lie to themselves.
And that's a good statement, because you can't lie to yourself. And at this point, it's kind of like, don't lie to yourself, because you're wasting your time. Just go ahead and say you ain't happy, say you ain't feeling it. And the thing is, everything fades. Of course, as always, a lot of times we talk like it's going to stay forever. It's never going to stay forever. Even I know some of the most depressed people, and at one point I was one of them. And I can honestly say it didn't last forever. And so it's just something to think about. And I want people to take that into consideration, which again is funny. Everything always aligns. We go into the next segment, which is the weekly sabbatical. And as we know, this is a time where we kind of reflect on past things that we've been through in life, and still ask him a lot of questions, because I got some more to ask. I got some more prying to do. So this next question, tell me of a time where you weren't content in life.
So for me, it was almost my entire childhood through my early 20s. I was depressed, and I mean depressed. And I always thought that I would grow out of the depression. Like, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. So I'd play all day, every day. And my senior year, I got pneumonia. So I couldn't play the entire senior season. So all the offers that I had went away. And wow. I was devastated. I was already depressed before that, but that was devastating for me. So I got through college. And then I got to a place where I was so depressed that I was just suicidal. Like, nothing was making it better, man. I got a decent job. I was making good money. I had a girlfriend. I had friends. Everything seemed okay, but I was just more depressed than ever. So I went to the kitchen, got a kitchen knife, stuck it in my wrist. And I had a strange experience, man. Like, when I stuck the knife in my wrist, I just felt like a peace that I hadn't experienced before. And I felt a sense of joy that I hadn't experienced before. And I was kind of shocked by it. It was very unexpected. So at that time, I just postponed the suicide for a little bit, because I was like, I should look into this. Like, I've had a good life, so I don't have a reason to be depressed, but I'm still very depressed. And yet without anything changing, I feel okay, like at least for a few moments here. So there's something here I need to explore. So anyway, that period of life for me, I'd say to my early 20s, was the least content, most depressed period ever.
Wow. And that's crazy, because that's a deep story, because that's, a lot of people have struggled with suicide. A lot of people don't attempt, and then a lot of people don't always make it. You know what I mean? So for you to kind of do that, and then you kind of say, and you thinking that's you, but that was really God saying, like, no, you got to be here. You're something you got to do, because that's all it was. And it's crazy how that happens.
Divine intervention. You're right.
It definitely was. So my thing was, we see these shows, like, I like the show, I ain't gonna lie, 13 Reasons Why. We see a lot of these other shows where either suicide is shown or discussed as if, oh, this character's not here no more because they committed suicide. Do you think that's helpful or more harmful to the community?
It's a great question. It's sort of, on one hand, it depends on who you are. So, depends on how you are. We all relate to content and experiences differently. That being said, I would say that for the most part, if you're able to share these folks' experiences, whether they're real or imagined, whether, real or scripted, and you can also show the ways in which those folks are getting support or getting help, then it's extraordinarily helpful, I think. The first part for me was like just knowing you're not alone. I think there's extraordinary value in knowing you're not alone, that you're probably, if you're suffering depression and or have had suicidal thoughts, you're probably in the majority, not the minority. But also, it's helpful to know exactly what to do. So sometimes not being alone is the first positive, step. But you also need some kind of constructive, supportive encouragement or a tool, something that can help you take the next step. Because to just leave you hanging there, I feel like is irresponsible.
Yeah, definitely. Now, like I said, I watched all 4 seasons of 13 Reasons Why. And did you watch the show?
I've only seen snippets. Yeah, I had heard
And
about
so, and so by the time I watched the show, I was well over suicidal thoughts. Like I was well past that. But when I just saw, and I said this before on the show, but when I saw how her family was afterwards and how the world was afterwards, although I was over it, that was the like, see, I really couldn't, because even though you gone, this is what's gonna be the after effects. And then unfortunately in August of 2021, one of my close friends, never thought it would have happened, committed suicide. And that was just like, wow. And it just goes to show you. And even with you said you had a good life. I'm sure when you did what you did, granted, obviously you're still here, but I'm sure nobody would have known that you were like that, because you said from the outside, I had a good life, but I was extremely depressed. And then it goes back to the topic of happiness. And, the title of the episode is How Can I Be Happy in a Time Like This? Because, the world we living in, things are getting worse seemingly by the day. World War III still may be on the horizon. It's just like, to the outside, you may say, how can I be happy in a time like this? But me, I believe that no matter the situation, because of God, the Holy Spirit, I'm gonna be good, no matter what's going on. But I know, but everybody ain't there yet. But I pray they get there.
Same. I couldn't agree with you more about that, man. I couldn't agree with you more about that. Like, and also, the truth is, the world will not be saved through worry. I can promise you that. It will not be saved through worry, and if we want to live in a happier world, we have to show other people how it's done. We teach through our living, shining example. And that doesn't mean you have to go up to people who are really suffering and brag about how happy you are. You can meet them where they are with your words, but down deep on the inside, you have to know that all is ultimately well. And you have to be able to find that place of perfect peace inside so that you have something to offer people who are struggling. People who are struggling and are sad don't need your sadness. That's not helpful. They need your support, and they need your love, and they need your peace, right? And so we want to be able to access and be what other people are having trouble accessing within themselves and having trouble being themselves. I think that's the highest teaching, is like wanting to, being the change that you want to see in the world, doing it for you and you only, but recognizing that it also bleeds into the world and helps support the world and other people in it too.
Absolutely. So you're an actor, right?
I did. I was an actor for like 10 years there. Yep.
You still active. You can go back active if you want to.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know how great an actor I was, but yeah.
Well, tell us some things you played in.
Yeah, so I was in a TV show on the CW called South Beach, and I played a character named Paco. So I was a model. I was an abusive model boyfriend to Vanessa Williams' character. That's probably the role that I remember the most. But I did a lot of commercials, and I was a model before that for a long time. But yeah, it was a fun 10 years. I mean, I was mostly broke, but lots of good experiences.
Well, see, that's what you remember. Of course, you remember being broke, but you remember the experiences more.
Absolutely.
So it's funny, we touched on it earlier, but we're coming back to it, and we talked about how like people, trip off of, how can I be happy in a time like this? We were in a pandemic, it seemed like it kind of disappeared after the war started. But with the pandemic, and I'm not gonna lie, to this day say, me and my friends say all the time, like 2020 was one of the best years. And like, despite the everything that was going on, and to this day, 2020 was a great summer. So to people who are probably gasping and gripping their chest right now with me saying that comment, how can you say in this moment that we can be happy in a time like that?
It's all focus. It's all focus. Unfortunately, the truth is, you could be in heaven and notice a pothole on Main Street. And if your entire focus is on that pothole on Main Street, you will not experience heaven as heaven. You will experience it as hell. And likewise, you could be in hell and you could focus on that one silver lining to the exclusion of everything else, and you'll have a much different experience than the rest of the people there. So we have control over where we focus. You will never find or feel happiness by focusing on everything that's unhappy in yourself and your life in the world, ever. You will only feel and experience unhappiness that way. And likewise, you could never experience unhappiness, not for very long, if you focus on the parts and aspects of yourself, your life, and others that you love and appreciate all the time, right? So there's a great quote, which I love, which is like, the law of flotation was not discovered by contemplating the sinking of things. And otherwise, happiness will not be discovered or felt or found by thinking about the unhappiness of things.
Okay. All right. I like that. So now, obviously, everybody, we some minutes in, quite a few minutes in, and everybody can tell you're a wise guy, intelligent. You got some stuff going on. So can we, as a writer myself, can you tell me what was the inspirations for some of your books?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Happiness from the Inside Out was initially just a journal that I was keeping for myself because I was trying to dig myself out of my unhappiness and my depression. It was more than unhappiness, it was depression. And so I was just reading everything I get my hands on, listen to everything, and I was applying as much of it as possible. And what worked, I would keep in the journal, and what didn't, I'd get rid of. So it started out that way. And then over time, when I went back to the master's program, it became my thesis, my independent research study. And then after that, I published it as a book. So that was the initial inspiration, was I just wanted to be happy, Izzy. Like, I didn't have anything more than that I wanted. I had no hopes or even dreams of publishing it initially. It was just like, I want to write down this stuff and track it so that I can stay happy. The second book I wrote, Love from the Inside Out, that was mostly an experience of like you, I love practicing the presence of God. And I found that for the most part, people who came to my practice wouldn't come to my private practice saying, I'm unhappy. They'd say, I don't have a partner or a husband or a wife, or the husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend I have is making me miserable or whatever. Can you fix this? And I was like, we have to correct some things here. Let's just talk a little bit about what true love actually is. And so it's really about true love, meaning divine love, and not just romantic love.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so the next question, I ain't gonna say last, but the next question is, are you still in touch with any of the celebrities who endorsed you?
Yes, I'm in touch with most of them. I just feel such genuine gratitude towards those folks, man, because people are busy, and when they take time out of their very busy schedules to endorse or support you, it means a lot. It means a lot. So yeah, I try to stay in touch, but I also try not to bother people.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I get that 100%.
Yeah, I bet you
do. So let's go into the next part where it says how to be happy, and this is according to the secrets of happy, healthy millennials. So we're gonna name some ways to be happy. He's gonna give me the thumbs up, like I like that, or like I don't like that. And he might say thumbs up to all of them. He might say thumbs down. No, we'll see. All right. So the first one says stay connected to family. I think that one's good.
Yeah, I think so.
The second one I really like. It says appreciate the here and now. It says being connected makes life easier in many ways. It said, but it can also distract us from the wonder of life happening around us. In the midst of working towards our big dreams and goals, we can forget to practice self-care. A lot of millennials are guilty of wishing their life will hurry up so they can get to doing their dream life. And I had to catch myself because I was that recently where I was like, you know what? Enjoy where you at now, because let's say your dream life does come tomorrow. You're going to miss the days where you could just chill and ain't nobody calling you, or did you see what you said on this? Did you see you at Walgreens? Everybody got a picture of you. You gonna miss the days where you just could just go places and didn't nobody know who you was, or even just the piece of just knowing you could do what you want and not deal with any penalty.
It's truth, Izzy.
The third one, find value in hard work. In a world of instant social media gratification, then YouTube stardom in college student startups turn to billion-dollar ventures. It says the value of hard work is often hidden and forgotten. It's easy to fall in the trap of expecting to move up the corporate ladder at a breakneck pace, or wishing you could achieve your dreams with minimal effort. I agree with that one. It says the fourth one, which is the last one, diversify your life. The ability to recognize that your job is not the sole determinant of your self-worth, even if it feels like it sometimes. It says it's the key to being a true happy millennial. Make effort to schedule time with friends, try out a new hobby, or volunteer so that you aren't defined by what you do to 9 to 5. Let's face it, most of us are still in our first or second job, and that means the job is probably less than ideal, but that's no excuse to feel down about everything. Me being in education these last few years, obviously time to venture off. But I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't learn anything from them and I didn't make an impact, because we've all went to school and we all had teachers that we remember to this day. And I know for a fact that the students I, been with, and even comments that were made by the students as well as the other teachers, I know I'm gonna make an impact on those students, and they're gonna remember me for the rest of their life, as well as they're gonna see me too, because they're gonna see me in those stuff. So it all kind of works out. What did you say?
I said that's what's up, man. That's what's up. There's no question about that. They're gonna see a lot of you all over the place because your light is bright, man. It's really bright for real. So, yeah.
I appreciate it. Okay, so let's move on to the last segment of the day. This is game time. This game time is called Oh Happy Day. I'm going to name a few scenarios, and I want him to tell me, Mr. Robert Mack, to tell me, okay, maybe give a suggestion on if I'm not happy, what can I do to get happy? All right, I'm telling you, I'm giving y'all some free game. Now, this ain't enough to where you ain't got to pay this man, because I ain't taking no bread off nobody's plate, but it's enough to where you can get a demo and see, I might need to pay this man. All right, so the first one. Lost my job and all the bills are due on the same day.
Woo! That's a tough one, right? That's a tough one. I mean, there's so many levels to start there. We'll go beyond the financial piece. So, of course, if you've got to grab another job, you got to borrow the money, you do what you have to do from that perspective. But in terms of, I would say that without question, you can't have a rags to riches story without having had rags at some point in time, right? And it's really tough to appreciate that when you're going through it, but that's part of my journey. I truly believe that everything and everybody in my life is a personal trainer for unconditional happiness and unconditional success. And the one thing you most need at that particular point in time, of course, is resilience, but also perspective. You have to be able to look at that situation and say, I know this is extraordinarily tough right now. This is going to make a fantastic story soon. And what can I focus on that is controllable? That's the other piece. It's like, what's most controllable here, or what's controllable at all? And if it's controllable, can I control it? So many of us spend too much time trying to control the uncontrollable or not control the controllable.
All right. Walked in on my girlfriend cheating on me.
Woo! I never walked in, but I've had a few experiences in that space. I would say, first key to almost everything right away is always self and emotional regulation. So the temptation, of course, is to approach or address whoever you think is causing you to feel the way you feel. It's like, you triggered me or this triggered me. But the truth is, the better path and alternative is to step away, do whatever you need to do to get your mind to cool down just a little bit. And then once your mood just rises just a little bit, that's the time then to look back at the situation in a much more mature way. But I would say that self-regulation and self-soothing skills are something you're going to want to do real quickly. Sometimes you can't do that. So the best thing you can do is call a friend or call your mom, your dad, somebody that can support you in an unconditionally loving, non-judgmental way.
Okay. The next one. Car broken into, stolen everything in it.
Yeah. So the question for me is, what do I have that's perfectly priceless, that I wouldn't sell for any amount of money? I think a lot of us get stuck, and it's understandable, especially when you don't have money, you lost your job, you just got some stuff stolen. It's easy to focus on all these things that can be replaced or they can be purchased with more money. You can lose money and get more money. You can get money and lose money. Money comes and goes. But there are some things in your life and some people in your life that are perfectly priceless. And so you really want to focus on those things in your life that are priceless, that you wouldn't sell for any amount of money. Friends, family, organs, your creative ability, your intelligence, any of those things. And so for me, losing things is a reminder that I have things that are perfectly priceless that I would never trade for any amount of money, and putting your focus there is much more helpful.
All right, last one. Lost a close friend or relative.
Yeah, so I think this is probably both the most challenging and most rewarding one of all, meaning that, so like you, Izzy, I lost a close friend, a college roommate, to suicide just this time last year. And really sad. Happiest, most charismatic, good-looking guy, successful the whole nine, but he was struggling. And I will tell you that for me, I felt relief in that because I knew he was suffering so much. The body is beautiful. It's also a prison. The world is incredible. It's also a prison. And most cases of unhappiness, in fact, all cases of unhappiness, are cases of mistaken identity. We have a body, but we are not a body. We have a mind, but we are not our mind. We are something that is non-physical that I call spirit, that is always one with life intelligence source, the universe, God itself. And as long as we live on this planet in these bodies, we will experience loss and gain. But if you stay centered and grounded in that thoughtless, wordless, faceless, formless, infinite, eternal essence that I call God, you are much better able to handle and deal with everything, and even feel some sort of release or some sense of relief when you lose sight of people. But out of sight is not out of existence. And so part of our journey here is to remember our true nature and our true identity as spirit and not as physical beings. So extraordinarily tough. You can't do it in one fell swoop, but absolutely critical. If you can do that one thing, everything else sort of takes care of itself.
Okay. I like that because I know one of my friends told me when her friend's brother committed suicide, she said what kept her at peace was just knowing this is what he wanted to do. It's different if he got murdered. It's different if he was in a bad car accident. But although we don't agree with his decision, that's what he chose to do. He wanted to do it. He knew the outcome. And unfortunately, we have to just accept it for what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that so much. And it's so true. I think we all sometimes get wrapped up in what we think somebody else should or should not do. But that's their choice and their freedom and their pleasure and privilege. And it might be hard for us to accept sometimes. But you're right. When you fight or argue with reality, you always lose.
Always. And that's the crazy part.
It is.
All right. So let's move on to the final segment. And this is obviously for y'all. Come on, keep participating so y'all can get y'all some free money on Cash App. So do you consider yourself a happy person? And what do you do to cheer yourself up when you are down? That's for my people. I want y'all to answer that. Tag me in it. Remember, you enter, you win the chance of winning either $10, $15, or $25, all on Cash App. And it's legit money because I'm not a scammer. All right, so Mr. Robert Mack, anything you got to say before we dip? I really appreciate you for pulling up on me today.
Dude, the pleasure's been all mine. The pleasure and privilege has been all mine, truly. And I just feel such gratitude for you, man. Like, I love what you're doing. I love how you're doing it. This has to be one of the best produced shows that I've been on. And I mean that. I've been on a lot of shows in 20 years or whatnot. So really well done. I love the authenticity you bring. I love the rawness that you bring. I love that you bring your opinions. And I also just love that it's just so polished and so well produced. So nothing but gratitude. If I can be of help to you or to anybody out there, please just reach out to me, man. I just love being helpful. I don't do this job to make a ton of money. You know, I do okay, but I do this job because I love helping people. I love seeing people happy. Also, the more happy people there are in the world, the easier it is for the rest of us to be happy. So it's kind of selfish that way. But I just have gratitude and love for you, Izzy, and for everyone out there.
All right. I appreciate that. I really, really do. All right, y'all. So tune in next week. We got the first episode of the Quarter Life Crisis. All right. The EP, you know, the year before I marketed like a mixtape. Last year was an album. This year is an EP. So not going to be too long, but it's going to be definitely, as what we say, effective. All right. So as always, PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you.